she's just amazing.
Welcome to the Great Reboot. I'm Tori Ryden. The call is out to everyone who can help. There simply aren't enough ventilators, personal protection equipment, PPEs, and other life-saving items to battle the coronavirus pandemic in the U.S. Manufacturers across the nation are working to keep the supply chain moving during the COVID-19 pandemic. Many manufacturers are heeding the call. They're literally reinventing themselves, stopping the production lines on what they normally create and retooling, and then taking blueprints to make ventilators, masks, PPEs. This call to action harkens back to the Rosie the Riveter days when women took over the traditional jobs handled by men in the industries and manufacturing plants during the Second World War. This is life or death we're dealing with, and our guest heads up the Manufacturing Association of Maine, also known as MAME. Lisa Martin, I can't thank you enough for joining us. I know you're really busy right now, so thanks for taking the time.
Thank you, Tori. I am never too busy to get word out about the great things that are happening, not only here in this state, but across the country in manufacturing.
So let's get right to it. It's such a time for manufacturers. I mean, really, what a time. We're seeing GE and Ford, and they're changing their manufacturing plants, and they're now going from making cars to making ventilators. What are you seeing? Because it is really all hands on deck.
Tori, thank you so much. I would like to get back to discussions on the national level, but really what I'd like to do first is provide you with the amazing things that are happening here in the state of Maine. And that's, there's three various levels of activity going on. One at the state level. At that level, it is the University of Maine and their research teams that are working with companies to figure out the design and the process and the protocols and what they need to do in order to make these. I think it has been a very interesting time because having people sew masks at their home sewing machine has been a wonderful thing, but unfortunately those are not approved as a safety, as an industrial grade piece of equipment to be able to be used in those medical facilities. So having that team be there and to be able to help us guide what the local companies are doing has been extremely helpful. I'm also fortunate to be part of a team which we're referring to as a manufacturing technical team, and it consists of myself, the Advanced Manufacturing Center at the university, the Maine MEP, and PTech, and a few other folks who sit on a daily call where we're triaging what the companies have for capability and capacity, materials, supplies, and what the needs are of the hospital supply chain. I do have to say, we have had an amazing conversations pretty regularly with the Maine Health Supply Chain and with Northern Lights. Those are two organizations that help manage the supply chains of the hospitals here in the state. So what we're trying to do is really help be the facilitators between those companies and what they can do and the hospitals and what they need.
What are the needs, right now? I mean, we're seeing around the country the great need for ventilators and also for those N95 masks. What are also the big needs, and what are the things that Maine manufacturers can help with?
It has really been very informative to understand what is happening out there at any given moment. So the needs right now are the ventilators and the masks. And we now have a design that's been approved, and it needs to really be gone through, it really has to go through and get that approval from the CDC and from the hospital engineering groups. So we do have a design that actually just came across our desk today, and we are getting that information out to the companies that have the capability and the material and sources to be able to start making those. The ventilators are another area that are in very much need, and as I've said before, unfortunately, we don't have ventilator manufacturers here in Maine. It takes several components to put a product together, such as, and we're all struggling. We have had contact with another large manufacturer who does make those, and they asked us to reach out to companies that have the capability. So we reached out to 3 or 4 of our Maine companies here, and that right now is they're being vetted by that large ventilator. So at this point, a lot of that triaging has happened, and we certainly are starting to see things not as frantic on the front line, but it's very well coordinated. There's a group of breweries and distilleries here in the state that have come together. This is business led. They have taken the reins. They have found glyceride. Glycerin. We were able to find that with one of our manufacturers and get that information to the supply chain. They then got that to the distillery breweries who have turned some of their product lines into making hand sanitizer. That is getting on the market. That is happening, and we are pretty relieved that is in progress. Our biggest challenge right now is finding the materials.
How, when you identify the materials, how long is it going to take, really, I mean, from the beginning to get that approval? Are you anticipating you'll get approval pretty quickly on this?
Things are happening very quickly, and I'd like to make a comment regarding those masks. We were on our call this morning with a number of engineers who they are now doing a significant amount of testing, and they can sanitize those. The challenge is, how do we get that mask back to its original user? So putting a pen marker on it won't withstand the sanitized process. How are they identifying those? So they can sanitize it, they can reuse them, but they have to figure out whose mask was it in the first place. So with that said, we're planning and hoping that will get resolved fairly soon. The sourcing, again, what we've started to see in the last 2 days is a great number of emails and contacts to some of these companies that are out in the news, with people offering a lot of things that we're trying to vet. We don't think that they might be legitimate, just a little scary for companies to be pursuing. So we're advising companies, if they're getting these and people are saying they can sell them something, they better get on it quick because the price is going up. I would be highly, highly skeptical, and we've asked companies to send us those emails so that we can do the vetting behind the scenes on their behalf.
You know, along those lines, Lisa, I know the Attorney General right now, I just saw a ping on my news that the Attorney General is taking in unprecedented numbers of complaints about, false people who are selling false materials, and they're just price gouging. And so it is kind of a wild west right now as far as that goes.
And it's funny because I shared on another call today because I am diabetic, and I was just curious. I do have some supplies, but I was just curious as to what those supplies look like out there and where I could, if I needed to buy them. And people are quadrupling the price of a test strip. And
Wow.
it infuriates me that is happening out there, because so many people are coming together to make this a safer place for us, to keep our families together, to keep businesses going, to keep people safe and then in jobs where we need them. And for that to be happening, I think is a travesty, and something should be done.
You must, on the flip side, be extremely proud of the manufacturers in Maine. So many of them, we've been seeing them in the news. Flowfold, which usually makes other kinds of products out of sail material, they turn things around and they're now making the plastic shielding for the hospitals to be using. I know American Roots. I mean, there are a whole bunch of, I don't need to list off all these names, but LLB and some of the bigger manufacturers and some of the smaller companies, it seems that everybody feels that need, they really want to do something to help out.
They do. And what we're asking people, and really we're taking a directive from the health, supply chain system, is to don't panic, don't get frustrated. What they're trying to do on their end is to make sure that they are vetting all of the requests of what they need to make and where the materials are, and make sure that they're an approved safety item before they can be calling in some of these companies. So we're starting to hear that companies are frustrated, but what we're really asking them is to sit tight, as difficult as that is, and know that as soon as we could possibly have the system in place, i.e. like the design of the mask, we now have that. That is going out to the manufacturers to start working on that.
How hard, Lisa, is it for these manufacturers to keep their workers working, there working? Here we are, we're all ordered to stay home. And I'm just curious how difficult that is and to ensure that their employees are going to be safe.
That's a great question, because I have been fielding calls, for the past 2 or 3 weeks. A lot of manufacturers, fortunately, have a lot of back orders of product that they already are making and producing. So much of manufacturing, and me, and my story, and I am very proud of this sector. That everything, if you look around your homes, your little offices, everything that you see and touch is manufactured somewhere, somehow. And without that sector, we would be in very more serious trouble than we are. They have the capabilities of switching over to finding things. We've had the construction industry pull things like ventilators that they use for the sector and masks and all those things. They're getting those out. The truckers have come forward and they're helping distribute things. It is, from my perspective, if you could put this up on a big whiteboard to look at everything that people are doing, it is astounding to me to watch it. And even sitting in my own living room, it's just a nonstop activity, and we don't see that it's going to slow down anytime really soon.
Well, you keep seeing the signs, we're all in this together. So I think it's probably that feeling that keeps inspiring people. I know you've been offering webinars to your group. Is that a way of just helping to kind of disseminate truth from false? And
Yeah.
I know that there are a lot of changes that have happened also with the payroll program that was just passed, the Paycheck Protection Program. I'm just curious about what are your webinars getting into?
So, I think that we could all agree over a week or so ago, we were getting inundated with information. And part of what we've started to see is, and fortunately with myself and our staff, we are culling all of those and making sure that it is coordinated, that the information that's going out isn't redundant. And then we are needing to do a lot of hand-holding with companies to talk them through this process. Every one of them, the questions have come through, have been pretty interesting, and some people are just shrugging the shoulders because they don't know what to do. So we are setting up and are partnering with people who are already doing webinars on things like, how is this going to impact their energy? How is this going to impact their employees? And what about the rule of this distancing in a shop where it's fairly small, or they have narrow hallways, or just the types of questions. So fortunately, we have had some webinars. There has been some great participation, but we're also fielding a lot of one-on-one with that manufacturing technical group that I spoke of earlier, that we're trying to get out to those companies as quickly and as possible, as fast as we can. And because you're part of our business services division, we have a whole slew of business consultants that have been working with us in manufacturing for many, many years. They are stepping up. They're helping companies get through the paperwork. A lot of people are out there doing a lot of good work.
Wow. Where can people check it out if they're not part of MAME and they want to, join in, they want to know more, they want to ask some questions or be part of the webinar? Where can they reach out? Where can they look up?
We are actually developing a page on our website where we're trying to pull all that information together. What I would say to people, and it would be very, very helpful if they have questions or they want to know, just have them email me. And I'm at Lisa@Maine, the state of Maine, MAINEMFG.com. And I am, with their contact info, I have made it my point here to call every company that contacts me and have a conversation with them, because what they're sending over via email may not be the only issue that they're running into. So we've had a lot of good conversations. We've been able to help those companies through our triaging of whatever it is that they're doing or need or can help.
It's a tough time. A lot of manufacturers are also looking at, am I going to be able to survive this? And so I imagine the DECD will also have some more information on how people can,
People, they could,
plan.
if they don't have to just email me. They could go to mainegov.com. Right on the front page of the state of Maine website is a link, and it has all of the resources. They have done a phenomenal job of turning over this information and getting it orchestrated in a very, very comprehensive way. So we're very excited about being able to direct people to that information as well.
I know you are so busy, and I don't want to keep you away from what you've got to do. You've got a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails to answer, but just give me your kind of gut feeling about how things are going to be, kind of rolling out with Maine manufacturing and the role that manufacturing is going to play, throughout the rest of this pandemic. We don't know how long it's going to last.
We don't, and like I said, I've talked to a lot of companies, and some of them do fit into that. Will we survive? We're really looking at sort of three buckets of where companies may sit at this point. One of those is the most immediate companies that have retooled and are being able to provide product and services directly right now, continuing to ramp up. The second are those companies that do have a lot of backlog and orders that they're fulfilling, and what most of them have said is that they're not getting many new orders in, except those that are making product for various sectors that are necessary, like medical devices. And then we do have a third area of concern, and those are companies that are not, they're very concerned about their future. The orders are not coming in based on what they're making and what they're doing. So I have a group of our consultant folks that we are prepared in the next few days to start looking at all those companies and seeing where they stand and start doing outreach to them on a one-on-one basis to see how we can help. I've already started to do that with some companies today. How is the health of your business? What can we do to help you at this moment in time? And then what can we do in the short term and then the long term?
Wow, that's a really important conversation to have, and that outreach is phenomenal. A lot of manufacturers who are really worried may feel really stranded and all alone. So that's bravo. That's great.
Yeah, it's certainly been a very, very interesting time. I think most people say that. I think interesting is like the word of the day, but when it comes down to it, there's no competition, there's no walls, there's no barriers. It's let's step up, let's work together, let's see how we can help. I think what the federal government is doing has been phenomenal, in helping out these industries and making people feel when they've lost their jobs that they will be able to pay their bills or feed their families. So there's so many others, the grocers, all of those people that are out on the front line, including one of my sisters who works in a lab. And, we just pray every day that they stay healthy and that we are our strong nation. Manufacturing is at the forefront of this, and we see that as a very positive thing to move us forward and sustain us.
And it's the retooling of these manufacturing companies that are going to help us stay healthy. Absolutely. And hopefully get to where we need to be. Lisa Martin, thank you so much for joining us and sharing. All the best to you and MAME, Manufacturing Association of Maine, and hope to hear back from you when we know when these N95 masks are up and running and being produced here in Maine and all around the country. So thank you so much.
I will. Thank you so much for having me, and very nice to talk to you.